Don't worry, be happy.
If Vladimir Putin were my American English pronunciation student, this is what I would say. It's hard to find videos of Vladimir Putin speaking English, especially since the Olympics that were in Sochi back in 2014. So then imagine my surprise when I found this video of Vladimir Putin speaking English from 2017. Okay, still a long ways away, but a little bit more recent than most of the other content you can find. And it has some great life advice, but it also has some great things that we can consider too when talking about American English pronunciation. So I put on my thinking hat and my thinking glove, and I came up with 5 things that I think are going to be crucial for you if you're trying to sound more natural in American English. The first thing I want to talk about is the long I sound, or E, where that mid back of your tongue is high and the back of your tongue is down and the front of your tongue is down. And of course, the placement is low in the throat and relaxed. What we see with some language groups, and as you can see in Russian as well, a lot of speakers tend to reduce the sound. So for instance, a word like happy, can you hear that E sound at the end? It often becomes like happy. So you want to make sure if a word, for instance, is ending on a Y, that you're maintaining that E sound at the end. Happy. The other word where this occurred too was for the word worry. Now, one thing that we just mentioned was this concept of placement. And if you've seen my videos or if you've been my student, you know I'm always
talking about placement.
always trying to help people with it. It's where you're projecting from. So making sure that when you speak, that you're really trying to speak from a low point in your throat and that you're also letting through enough air. It should be very relaxed. The truth is that pretty much every sound in American English pronunciation is pronounced this way. Low in the throat and relaxed. So you want to make sure when you're saying a word like don't, check yourself to make sure your placement's not too high. You'll know it's too high if you get a sound, for instance, like do, or for instance, oh, do. These are all indications that your placement's too high and too tense. Same thing, for instance, for the long I sound that we just mentioned. You'll know it's too tense if you get like an E sound, like E. You want more eh. Can you hear a difference between those? So for instance, a word like B. You know, we've been looking at lots of vowel sounds, and this makes sense because English is just paying so much attention to vowel sounds. If people have a hard time understanding you or they ask you to repeat yourself, the chance is really good that it's the vowel sound that's causing an issue. To make things more difficult, English has lots of vowels that can sound very similar to you if you haven't practiced them. So for instance, the difference between an S sound and an A sound. Notice how he says the word happy here. I'm hearing a little bit more hippie as opposed to, again, happy. The big difference between these vowels is that for the A sound, your mouth is wide, the middle of your tongue is raised, and the back and the front of your tongue are down. One trick for this sound too is if you look at yourself in the mirror and you say ah, you should be able to see the middle of your tongue. You should not be able to see back into your throat. This is different than the sound. For instance, like in a word like bed. For the sound, you raise the back, middle, and front of your tongue up. Close your mouth a little bit more, and again, it's more So compare, for instance, bad and bed, or sad and said. By the way, guys, which of these words do you find harder to say? Bed or bad? Let me know in the comments. Okay, that's a lot for vowel sounds. So let's take a look at some consonant sounds. One way that I think you can immediately sound more natural is practicing what's called a
Held T sound.
So instead of saying don't, you could just say don't. Now, if you think I just took off the T, that's not quite right. What's really happening with this don't sound is I'm tensing my throat a little bit so that way air can't escape. So again, instead of saying don't
worry,
I'm saying don't.
Don't worry.
One other little trick for this is to shorten your vowel sounds. So instead of doing like an O, you can just do O, do, don't. The last thing I would mention here is a concept called stress. Stress is where you put emphasis in a sentence. This is important because English is a stress time language. So that means that if you put stress in the wrong spot, it's going to be confusing for your listener. Additionally, not all words receive emphasis, so stressed words you want to hold longer and raise the pitch on. Non-stressed words you can say a little bit faster and keep the pitch a lot lower. Which words do you hear Vladimir Putin stressing?
Don't worry, be happy.
I'm personally hearing stress on don't and be, like don't worry, be happy. Which is interesting because normally when you hear this expression, you hear the stresses on worry and happy. Don't worry, be happy. If you're familiar with the song, you can look that up too. So let's put everything that we just talked about together into one sentence sounding a little bit more natural in American English pronunciation. Don't worry, be happy. If you want to practice your vowels to make sure people are understanding you, check out this video which covers all of them.